Every one of us has our own dreams and aspirations for the future. Some of us want to become rich. Some are looking for fame and influence on people, and others intend to live with their life partner. This makes us anxious and stressed most of the time, and our mind is always busy with how to achieve its dreams, forgetting our present, and our mind is always busy with the future and the past. If you have one of these problems, watch the video to understand the reason for this and what is the solutions to live comfortably in your life and reach your dreams at the same time. The Power of Now book is the book for today's episode, which revolves around a basic idea, which is: the past is dead and the future doesn't exist. The present is the only thing you have now, and the present is what you need to live in because that's the only way to achieve true peace. So how do you do that? The power of now is being able to live in the moment, having your mind think about what you're living now. Everything you do should be focused on that thing. The power of now is the only way to inner peace. The power of now is a superpower that, once mastered, nothing affects you anymore. You become capable of doing what you want without any external distractions. You become able to stop overthinking once you master this skill. Anxiety, anger, all these things no longer affect your life. You will work well, study well, live well, and you always stay calm. So how can we reach this stage? Clock time is the only thing that has existed since the beginning of the universe and will never stop. Our mind will always be tied to this clock time, and that's our nature. But humanity has taken this clock time and made something out of it that has caused us many problems, which is time. Time created the past and the future, which created stress and anxiety for us. Look at animals, for example. They don't have time, they live comfortably. A cat spends the whole day sitting with no worries or anything. You'll never find a cat resting and feeling depressed or something like that. It just spends the whole day lying down until it gets hungry and gets up to eat, and then it continues through life until it dies. We humans created time, created the past and the future, and this is the difference between clock time and time. Clock time is the morning, the day, and the night. Clock time is the present you live in now. Clock time is the present, and the present is the only thing that exists. The past and the future exist only in your mind. The past is in your memory, and the future is just messy expectations. There is a wisdom I like. The moon appears to emit light, but that light isn't its own. It's just a reflection of the sun. The same goes for the past and the future. They are just reflections of the present, of now. This is the first thing you need to do. Forget the past and the future. The past only makes you suffer now, and the future makes you forget now. This now is your life, and you are living in it, but you are sacrificing it for the past and the future, which don't exist. You are sacrificing your life for something that isn't there. The first thing you need to do is learn to live in clock time, not in time. How do you do that? We'll get to that. For now, let me explain the concept theoretically so you understand. We now understand what time is and what clock time is. Now, what is required of you as a human being is to live in clock time and use time as a tool. Look at this sentence well. I'll give you an example to understand. You did an interview for a job and then you found out that you didn't succeed and they won't call you. If you start saying bad things about the company and the country, that you should have done this and not that. This talk is an escape from the present to the past. Here you are living in time and discouraging yourself. But what you need to do is think about the past and try to understand what you didn't do well. Think about your mistakes, and most importantly, think about how to improve. This way, you use time as a tool and stay living in clock time, meaning in the present, and think about what to do now, not what you didn't do that day. This is the kind of mentality you need to have. You need to understand this link between clock time and time, and this is the problem. And now we understand it. To solve any problem, we need to know its causes. That's why let's move on to the main reason that makes you escape to the past or go to the future. Each of us has an inner voice, a voice in your mind that reminds you of the past, tells you to do this or that people will laugh at you, to dress well, that you need to do this to look good. This voice is called the ego. The ego controls your thinking. The ego interprets the world for you but listens well. It doesn't reflect the world. The ego is actually your enemy. The ego is the cause of all your problems. People who attempt suicide often say they can't live with themselves anymore or hate themselves. Look closely at this sentence and reflect on it, and you'll find that the solution to these people's problems lies in this sentence: I can't live with myself anymore. This I is the person, and myself is the ego. The ego is causing you problems, and their solution is that they shouldn't let the ego live inside them, or at least not let it affect them. How do we do this? Let's first understand the problem to find a solution. The problem with the ego is that it can't live in the present. What it does is push you to think about the future or the past. How does it do this? Through negative thoughts like "don't trust that day you did this and people laughed at you." And these negative thoughts distance you from the present and create negative emotions, and you keep going like that. The solution to this problem is to live in the present, or in other words, to connect with your true self. Your true self isn't your thoughts, beliefs, education, or health. Your true self is your spirit. How? You are not your mind. Your mind is just a tool. For example, if you like doing something like playing games, you might realize that this hobby has disadvantages if you overdo it, and it's better to replace it with something else if you can. But most people addicted to games will tell you, "I love games, I am a gamer and can't live without them." In reality, this answer is nonsense. This isn't you. This is the life you lived, the experiences that made you like that. It's like someone who smokes, and when you tell them to quit, they say, "That's how I am, I smoke and can't quit." What you like and your thoughts aren't your true self. So how to bring out your true personality and connect with your soul? By disconnecting from your ego. Your ego no longer affects you. Remember this well. We'll come back to it later. There's another nice idea the author talks about, which is the pain body. Pain manifests as a body and resides inside you. This body is made from the suffering you go through. For example, someone who was always beaten by their parents as a child, when they grow up, every time they see a child being beaten, they remember that suffering. We all have a pain body inside us that brings us back to the past. And this is just an illusion created by your ego. Now we understand the problem that prevents you from living in the present, enjoying the moment, and achieving inner peace. So how can you overcome this inner voice and live in the present? The first solution is awareness. Awareness of the problem. And that's what I've been trying to convey to you all this time. This whole talk I've given you is about 50% of the solution. Every time you find yourself thinking about the past or the future, remember the clock time and time equation. Remember that the past is dead and the future doesn't exist, and remember that it's not you thinking at that moment, it's just your ego. The second solution is to observe the thinker. How? Try to think now with me and ask yourself, what thoughts are coming to you? I'll give you 5 seconds to see what thoughts come to you. Often when you do this, you'll find that no thought comes to you. And if something does come, you'll feel that it doesn't make any sense. This is the state you need to be in all the time, where you just watch. In other words, those negative thoughts that come to you regarding time, the thinker is responsible for them. The thinker is your ego. Whoever thinks about this thing, you, meaning your spirit, are separate from this thinker. The thoughts that come aren't you. To be your true self, you need to break this link between you and them. To do this, you need to become just a watcher. The thoughts that come, you just see them without reacting. Like the experiment we did now. The thoughts become separate from you. This is the way to be your true self. How do you do this? First, by understanding the concept of the watcher and the thinker. Each time, remind yourself to switch to the observer mode. Believe me, even if this seems a bit heavenly, this is the way to acquire this superpower of the power of now. This power of now is literally a superpower, like if you want to learn boxing, you need to train. The power of now requires you to keep doing these exercises to train for it. It's best to have something to remind you, like a small item in your room or something on your phone screen, and each time you see it, remember and do the watcher exercise. Another way to detach from your thoughts is to work and focus on your senses and what you do during the day. For example, when going down the stairs, focus on each step you take, focus on your foot and feel yourself going down. When you smoke, focus on the smoke entering you and feel that cigarette. Here I don't encourage smoking, but if you smoke, at least benefit from that cigarette somehow. These are the solutions suggested by the book The Power of Now, and I recommend anyone interested in the topic of overthinking to read it. Always remember, the past is dead, the future doesn't exist, the present is what matters. The present is you, so relax and live the moment. And goodbye.